The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Buffs On Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. We got a little shorter episode for you guys today, a little pressed for time, so we're going to try to get through as much as we can as possible. We're going to talk off-season today, draft stuff in the future. I sent it over to Gabe. Gabe, you have an article that you're going to kind of summarize, and you have some things written down on, so take it away.
Yeah, this is kind of just a general overview of what's happening this offseason, what decisions we have to make. And this was all taken from I think his name is Bobby Marks Pistons Guide. We had a nice little YouTube video from ESPN that I thought summarized the offseason well. So I'm just going to start with the obvious one. We're a few weeks out now from the draft. We have pick 37 via Toronto. I don't remember the Toronto trade where that came from, but either way, that's a decent pick. I think it will fit well with our team. Maybe another Marcus Sasser type guy. Are there any specific guys you're looking at, or just a guy you have your eye on? Connie, I know me and you agree on the big man from China, Hansen Yang, if he's still available.
If he is, that would be nice. You guys sent some clips of him in the chat. I saw a couple of clips of Chad Lanier that kind of caught my eye with some movement shooting, but besides that, no, nothing specific.
I guess what's the player type you'd like to add at this pick?
I think you guys. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, like player type is either a big that can function with the other two bigs in some way or another. Maybe something like a lot of something that we clamored for in this offseason was just someone with more size, like a legit 7-footer that can just throw around his weight and his size a little bit. And it's that, or it's just like elite shooters, right? Like just more spacing. We saw how important spacing is for this team. Just more guys that can shoot the rock. And generally, I think the Pistons should look for like older players. If around, like guys that are ready to contribute now, right? It's my
Yeah.
general thoughts.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, dream would be add size and floor spacing big at the same time if that's possible. But that may also be something that we look at to address in free agency. But yeah, I would say, I would like to add a floor spacing big. If he could play with the guy that we have already, that would be extremely nice. But I'm pretty much in the same boat as Connie, but I'm kind of just asking for everything here and one guy, which is the floor spacing, like 7-footer.
Valley, do you have anything you're keeping your eye on, or like a player type?
Yeah, well, first off, I do really agree. I think getting a big man in would be the best way to do it because if you go to satisfy that need of needing like that, just a big body, like a 7-footer guy who can rebound and rim run, if you opt to fill that need through free agency, you're almost obliged to play that individual more. Whereas I think with you, if you were to draft a rookie and draft someone from this class, I think you do have the flexibility of kind of easing them into the rotation and still like preferring the Stu Duran or Duran Stu combo, and then working kind of as a third string center rather than being an integral part of their rotation and working together with Stu and Duran kind of as a three-man big rotation. Just having the flexibility, I think, to ease into it through the draft, I think would be better. From what I've seen, excuse me, I'm a huge fan of Hansen Yang, absolutely. When it comes to these picks, I'm always a guy who likes to either gamble in the second round or take a guy who's played some, like 4 years in college, 3 or 4 years in college, like a Marcus Sasser. I remember drafting Bruce Brown, and I believe he had some decent experience under his belt. I always get excited around these second round draft picks. I swear I predicted Bruce Brown being pretty good, and I was right on that. I thought Kyrie Thomas was going to be even better. Turns out he wasn't. I think he plays in the Canadian Basketball League now.
Yeah,
But
it's not impressive to predict when a guy is going to be good if you predict every single guy is going to be good.
well, I don't predict every guy's going to be good. I knew Servitas wasn't going to be nothing.
They've been
But
balling out actually for Lithuania, or
good
was it
for him.
Latvia?
when it comes down to it, though, I'm either team big man or team get me any guy that could potentially shoot the ball and give us some meaningful minutes on the wing. From what I've seen in my limited draft knowledge, huge fan of Hanson Yang. My big board, he's for sure number one.
Yeah, I have to agree. You know, the NBA has like this site where it lists all the stats for all the combine attendees. Hanson Yang had the largest hands in the draft. He has good touch. He was chubby like last year. Now he's kind of like looking pretty fit. I would not be surprised if he's like a top 20 pick this draft. The next Alperen Şengün, except bigger. Um,
I got
Another
a quick
name.
list of the guy the Pistons have invited in for workouts. Can I read that off real quick?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So we got Johnny Broom, a forward center out of Auburn. We got Tyson Degenhart, a forward out of Boise State. We got Dejon Harris Jr., a guard out of Kansas. Ty Johnson, a guard out of UC Davis. Chad Lanier, a guard out of Tennessee. And this one gets confusing, so stay with me. We got St. Thomas, a forward out of USC.
I
So
don't
those are
know
the
any of
list
those
of guys we got
names.
in.
Yeah,
Johnny Broom is the only guy.
of
Sorry,
those
go ahead, Cody.
of those seven, the two guys that like I would like are Chaz Lanier and Johnny Broom. Johnny Broom went like a little viral recently. I mean, obviously he had a great career at Auburn, but he went a little viral recently for his showing at the combine, recording the lowest vertical that they that they saw. But even still, this is a guy in college who averaged over 2 blocks a game every single year. He averaged 4 blocks a game his sophomore year, which was crazy for a guy that really just cannot jump. Um, He's got some skill as well. He can do a couple different things. He's not quite the supersized guy that I would like to see at that center position, but I think he is someone that could provide some stuff to him. And then Chaz Lanier is just the guy that we're talking about, like just like a dead eye shooter, right? He did his first 4 years. He's also an older guy. He did his first 4 years in North Florida, where he steadily increased his 3-point shooting percentage and rate. So he started shooting 30% on one a game. And by the time he got done with there, he was shooting 7.5 a game at 44%. And then he
That's
went to
impressive.
Tennessee, a much bigger school, obviously, in a much more difficult conference, and stayed up at 39.5%, shooting 8.2 a game. Like this is a dude that can he could be that guy that, you know, does space it a little bit in that Marcus Sasser role if we want to keep a guy, if we want to move on from Marcus Sasser and keep a guy that's on like a rookie skill contract, second round rookie skill contract that's very affordable for the next couple of years to keep that cap sheet looking good. The guy I have the most experience watching here is RJ Felton. RJ Felton goes to ECU, where I go to school, and this is a guy. He's not very tall. He's about 6'3". He's built insane, ripped, shredded, diced. Um, but his game is definitely. I mean, ECU basketball is just not that good. And I don't think he contributes very much to, I mean, he contributes to the wins that ECU gets, but those are the wins that ECU gets. He's not a very efficient scorer. He doesn't shoot high on twos. He doesn't shoot high on threes either. I mean, his percentages are okay, but he barely shoots them. Uh, he's more of an energy guy, like a hustle energy player, which is really not what I want from a person that's 6'3", you
Bruce.
know? Like, but Bruce Brown even had some like point guard where he was playing point guard at University of Miami, and he filled up some like assist stats and did some other stuff.
Is
RJ
is Chad Lanier like how big is he? Is
6'4", like he's not huge. He'll be a guard.
okay.
Also not a big assist guy. Like is really just like a bucket, a 3-point shooter. Uh,
Yep.
but RJ Felton is a bit of a do-it-all guy, except for like he doesn't finish or score very efficiently at any level.
Sounds like he's just not that good at basketball. Um,
He's a dog. I'll give him he's a dog.
you always need those guys, but I think we have enough dogs on our roster that we need some skill as well. Another name we talked about briefly is Rocco Zikarski, seven
I
foot
think,
three,
yeah, so bringing it
or
up.
big man from Australia. He's not ready yet, but you know you got Stu and Duran. You don't necessarily need a guy that's ready right now. Just a guy that like beef up the lines.
Yeah, he's
Another name
big.
is St. John's Aaron Scott. He's another name that we've invited in for a workout.
he also Zakarski can like move a little bit. Like he's a pretty solid mover for
He's a
like
good
a
defender.
young,
He's a really good defender.
huge guy. Yeah. He's what? He's definitely clear 7 foot. Uh, and he can jump and shuffle a little bit more than like I think the average guy his size.
Yeah, so I guess if there's a guy we like, maybe if we think he won't be there in time, we do have all our picks going forward as well. We can trade up to four. Don't think we're going to do that. We have a few extra second round picks as well, just from random trades. I guess moving on to some team stuff, some contracts. Schleuder, Tim Hardaway, and Beasley are all free agents. Duran and Ivy are extension eligible, and we can do that until October 21st. We do have the early bird rights as well on Schleuder and Timmy, which allows us to exceed the cap in case we do want to keep them, and there's another bidder perhaps. And we have the non-tax mid-level, which is about 14 million that we could use on Malik as well to exceed the cap. So we do have flexibility to re-sign our players, but it could get very expensive. And that's kind of I want to hear what you guys think about the contracts those guys could get, and then also what do you think Ivy and Duran are, what they're going to get with the team length contract extension? Because again, that could get very expensive very quickly.
Yeah, and
But for me, it's all worth it.
one other thing to note is that if Beasley is not signed within that mid-level exception, we can dig into our cap space, which is at about like 16.8, 16.9 million. If we do need to go into that. But I kick it over to Valley. Valley, your thoughts on who we should resign, the contract you think they'll get?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, Beasley's got to be the guy that you got to express the most interest in. I believe the Pistons have expressed interest in bringing all these figures back to the team. When it comes to how much they'll get, I don't know. I think that's when it gets really, really interesting, and you have to take into account the long-term plan to be paying Jaden Ivey, to be paying Jalen Duren, and even the year after that, paying Asar Thompson, and even on the line paying Ron Holland. Decisions we make now will impact us in the long term, and I think that's something to just be very aware of. I do believe that we will end up bringing back Timmy. I think we will bring back Dennis Schroeder. I think we will bring back Malik Beasley. I think Timmy is probably maybe the most controversial one there, but I do think Timmy will come back when it comes to how much they'll get. Beasley, especially, I think Beasley, I'd be more than happy to give anywhere from maybe 2 to 3 years, maybe up to four. I'll say 3 years, give or take. And you look at the $7 million he was making this previous season, where he just about almost led the league in 3 point total makes. He led the league in total catch and shoot 3 pointers. Obviously 3 pointers off the bench. He made $7 million a year last year. I think he's well within it. He has it well within him to deserve at least double his paycheck. I'm assuming I see this being around 15 million for Beasley per season realistically, and I think that does make it pretty interesting to see how much you're going to pay the other guys, and if other guys are going to be able to take pay cuts. I think you're going to have to find a discount in Tim Hardaway Jr. I think that's the way it's going to have to be if you want to keep him around that 40 or $64 million he was on. Not going to be attainable. When it comes to Schroeder, I think it's going to be a 1 year, 2 year thing, and the money doesn't matter too much for Dennis Schroeder. But what do you guys think in terms of value and length of contract? Importantly for these three guys, I'm interested to hear what you think.
Gabe, you haven't had a chance to really pitch in on too much stuff here. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, Valley, I agree with you. I think Beasley is the number one priority, and I think a 4 year deal would be nice for him. 3 year deal plus one maybe. Timmy and Schleuder, I'd like to have back as well, but not on as long deals because I do think they are not the caliber of player you need to like contend. That just from like the type of player that is winning right now in the playoffs, you kind of need all around players, and they both just have their limitations and are just getting a little bit older. But to keep them on the team for another year, another 2 years perhaps would be really nice in my opinion. Um, and I guess like a 15 million a year for Timmy, I'd be fine with if it's like a 2 year deal, like we overpaid with Tobias Harris. But it long term that doesn't matter on the books. We have our team. Ivy and Dern as well. I don't know. I kind of think it's whatever they ask for, you pay, and as long as you can, because I think this core is what we need to keep together. So I think we're gonna be right up at that like exceeded the cap mark. Um, but I think we're gonna see a similar team that we saw last year step on the floor again next year, pretty much.
Connie?
Uh, I think we might lose one of these guys. I mean, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. would be the most likely loss, him or Dennis Schroeder. If the Pistons feel that Jaden Ivey can fill those minutes that Dennis Schroeder used, like as a they stagger him and Cade and like let Ivy run a little bit more point guard in the second unit. I could see them letting him go. Uh, I don't think that's the right move because I think Schroeder provides more of a guiding hand than Ivy, whereas Ivy would just provide like outstanding bursts of offense. Um, I think Malik is for sure coming back. Uh, if I hope that number is reasonable and doesn't wreck us. Um, we're just talking those three guys right now, or uh the other two
Yeah, just talk about
extensions as
them three.
well.
And then the Durham. Yeah, the Durham Ivy extensions too.
Duran Ivy extensions, those are tough, right? I think both of them are a little tough. One, because I mean, they're not going to get the max, right? It's just not feasible for like three players to be on like that sort of contract in today's NBA. And I wonder how much like players and agents are realizing, I'm sure agents realize, but players and how much they're getting from their agents realize that the numbers that were there for people are not going to be there, especially for like mid-range players where teams are not going to be willing to throw out as large a contracts with how difficult and how restrictive like the aprons are now. Like we are pretty much in a hard cap league, more or less. That makes those mid-range contracts really much more important and like going to be slightly smaller, I think, than the years they were before. Especially with Cade hitting all NBA and getting that pay raise. I think both of those guys are going to be in like the
What is
20
the
to 30
actual?
range.
Sorry,
Cade?
what is the actual number for K that he hit now because of his All NBA?
I believe it's 45.
Two,
So he went,
Okay,
yeah. So the initial it was total 224 million and now it's 269 million. 5 years, 270 pretty much.
yeah,
So I
it's a
could see
lot of
them both
money.
earning sort of between that 20 to 30 million range. I think
5 years,
might get a
60.
Ivy might get like a sort of prove it extension, like a 2 or 3 year, like Jalen Green sort of like 20, 25 million a year, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. Duran, I could see getting locked up for a longer time, maybe like 5 for 120, 5 for 150, something like that.
I think it's also incredibly possible that we do see us wait until next offseason and let Jaden Ivey run it in restricted free agency because we have not seen him more recently. It's easier to extend Duran, right? You've seen what Duran, how he progressed since the first, whatever, 25, 30 games of the season, where he's come to at this point, and where you can project him to go from here on out. But Ivy only playing 30 games this year. Maybe you don't extend him right now and you just wait it out till next offseason. Any thoughts on that?
I like that. It's kind of the same idea as the prove it contract, except you don't pay them yet.
Yeah.
And if he does prove it, then you're happy to lock him up for a lot of money. But the problem is, it could be a more expensive contract, right? Maybe the
Yeah.
Pistons think he will be that good. Uh, let's not take the extra money. Let's just pay a little more now and get him under contract, which maybe by the end of that deal will be a bargain compared to early on, which is actually more important. I'd rather have more upfront deals right now that taper off, if that's possible, because it will get expensive. It happens to every team.
Which that's what I think
Very
we should
fair.
absolutely do because uh Saw that same sort of thing with Tyrese Maxey. I saw that get mentioned somewhere recently, but Tyrese Maxey went into the year sort of at a similar level as Ivy, where the Sixers were like, yeah, he's pretty good, but he hasn't shown enough to get like a longer extension. And then they let him play out the year. He balls out. He gets a huge contract. Um, so I just don't want that to happen with it. I'd rather lock up Ivy. Like we know Ivy's going to be pretty good, and the cap's going to increase. So whatever we lock him into now is going to be like a pretty all right contract by the end of it, regardless.
Yeah.
I think he'll end up in the like 18 to 20 range to start. During maybe a little higher than that, 20 to 25 range, if it happens this offseason.
I do think it'll be a little more expensive than that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I guess we'll
Uh,
see.
I
No way
mean,
to
just
know.
with
We will
contracts
see.
are at this point. Like contracts are
Yeah.
just bigger now, right? So there's going to be players making $70
Right.
million a year. It's just not the same NBA it was even 5 years ago. Numbers are just huge, and like 20 million, 20, 30, even $30 million now. It's nowhere near the max, right? Like it's not crazy money.
30
Well,
to
I mean,
20.
obviously it's crazy
Yeah.
money for any human being, but
Yeah.
it's not NBA crazy money.
All right. All right. Any other notes on Ivy Durham before we talk about potential upgrades in free agency if the Pistons do decide to go that route? Anybody have a list of some players that they have their eyes out on? I know the Pistons have been tied to numerous names, not only in free agency but on the trade market. Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, of course. If Boston decides to sell crazy, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones also been mentioned. If the Pistons do decide to try and acquire one of those guys, Zion also on that list. Miles Turner, Nas Reed have been linked to the Pistons. The Pistons having interest in them. Ty Jerome, Pistons also having interest in, as well as Karis LeVert. Any of those names stand out to you guys?
Not really. I think a lot of those names would be nice to have, but the means to acquire them might just not be realistic for us, I guess, unless we want to part with our core. Um, I think aside from a few huge names that you mentioned, and also like doing a trade for Devin Booker, perhaps, just like pulling the trigger on that. Um,
Yep.
but over offering things, like Connie said, it's a different NBA now. If you give up your entire cabinet of draft picks, you're in a bad way. So I just have some like minimum big guys that I thought it would just be nice to have on the roster if we do go with Lanier in the draft and we still need some size. Thomas Bryant, as a big guy, he is hitting threes in the playoffs. So we'll see how he does in the finals, but he's a decent guy to have third string coming off the bench. Bismack Biyombo, not as excited about, but he's been around the league. He's been around the league.
I'd rather have Paul
Um,
Reed Biombo.
yeah, so would I. And then some names I guess I'm a little more interested in. Steven
I would
Adams.
be very
I don't
interested in Steven Adams.
I don't think he's the minimum guy, but getting him on the roster I think would be really nice. He's the epitome of toughness. Every rebound that's ever on the court. And then another name is Luke Cornett that I thought would be pretty good. He's the unrestricted free agent, signed a minimum last year. I do think he's also going to get a little bit more, but he used to shoot a lot of threes and he used to make a lot of threes. Boston kind of refined his role. So if we do need a little bit, maybe he can revert his game. And
Mhm.
he's also gigantic, so he's another name I'd like. So really, Stephen Adams, Luke Cornett, and Thomas Bryant are my guys.
I would
A name
imagine.
I'd love to throw into that list, Gabe, that I would prefer over some of those guys other than Steven Adams is Andre Drummond. I think this is something that's been kind of thrown around a little bit, but talk about a third string center who would come in and provide us with something that we don't have. There were periods of time throughout this season, and even throughout the playoffs, we struggled to do one thing that was rebound. And what's one thing Andre Drummond's been good at his whole career? Rebound. Elite defensive and offensive rebounder. I think it's in a place of his career right now where he would be a great fit to come in and be a third string center for this team. Obviously, he is still a Pistons fan, a Pistons sports fan, still has his home in Detroit, still interacts with the Pistons and did so throughout this playoff success that we enjoyed this previous season. But I think Drummond is a really, really just cheap alternative. Um, Low key move we can do because I'm coming from an angle and a perspective where I'm not a fan of making moves. I want to retain the players we had and maybe do something minor. And something minor to me is adding a player like Andre Drummond who has learned so much throughout his career. Similarly to how Tobias Harris came back in his second stint as a Piston, and is not comparable. Tobias, in his first stint compared to his second stint, different players, almost different people it seems like, and I think Drummond could see that. That same impact as to I think it's evident how much he's grown. He wanted to be the center face of a team. He's had to learn that he's not, and he's a role player. And I think it would just be a perfect time to bring him back. And I would love to see us win a playoff series with Andre Drummond on this roster.
The big penguin himself. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him
The
either.
big penguin.
But I just don't think he can. I don't think he can play playoff defense, which for third string guy potentially not important. But again, these playoffs have really shown you want to be able to play different lineups, different guys, and be deep like 1 through 15, 1 through 12.
Yeah, that's the main reason I don't want to blow up too much of the team that we have is because we do have guys who can, down the roster that can contribute to winning. I don't want to make a big trade. I think I've said that on the pod before. I'd like to add, if we do anything, I'd like to only add through free agency so that we're not subtracting from the team or only adding to it. But I'm more so of keeping majority of the team intact if we could. That's my mindset going into free agency.
Yeah, I think most fans would agree with you. That is what Langdon has like mentioned in his postseason talks that he like, yeah, we like this core. We're gonna see what they do over the summer, see how they improve. Because I do think the team needs to improve at positions like the
Oh yeah,
Hardaway at the 3, even Tobias Harris at the 4. But that should come internally. Ron Holland, Asar, see how those guys
Bobby.
can. Yeah, of course. So I think this is like a let's see what we have here. Let's see if it wasn't just a flash in the pan, if it was like a Hawks run, or if we're going to be on like a Pacers type rise where we do make that move after we see how good we are. So I would expect to maybe be pretty active at the trade deadline, but it's really too early to say. I don't really have anything else on this offseason. If you guys have any other topics, thoughts, let's hear them.
I mean, I'd love to. I know you guys are anti Nas Reed, uh, but I would love Nas Reed on this team.
Yeah.
I think there's even a shot that you
Why?
get him at some sort of discount because he came out stinky because he's a really good basketball player and he provides us multiple things. One is I've already said this, but like a three-headed monster at this sort of center power forward position where Nas Reed could really play with either Stu or Duran. So I don't think
Or
finding
be
him
the only guy
minutes,
out there.
huh? What'd you
Or be
say?
the only guy out there, like the only
Or
big on the
or
floor.
be the only guy out there and just do a super spacing lineup. He is an excellent three-point shooter, but beyond that, he is actually also just an incredibly skilled player. At his size, he has a handle. He can finish inside. He was part of the original Jelly fam. Uh, and I mean, he's this guy. I think he's
Oh,
got the
really?
right. Yeah, he was part of the original Jelly fam.
Oh, let's get him on
And
the
Bring him
team. I
in.
didn't know he was Jelly Gang. Come
And
on.
he is what? I think it's just in like all the rest of those Jelly Fam guys were like 5'11", 5'8" guys doing layups, and then you got this dude who's freaking like 6'9" doing the same thing.
What
Uh,
about
it's just a demonstration of his skill set, which is in a really high skill set. And along with that, he is a guy that is he has I think that he has the right tenor. He has the right mentality to be a Detroit Piston, man.
I
He's
don't
not afraid of people.
disagree
He
with
gets
you. I
into it.
don't. I don't
Uh
disagree.
what about his playoff performance makes you think, oh, let's go offer him a bag? It looked exposed to me in the
Uh,
playoffs. Look,
do you know who they
against
played though? They played the
they
Demons
play
in OKC.
they
yeah, but
played
it's
the
not like he's
That
Demons
was
gonna
in
gonna
do
make you
anything
think
OKC,
good.
about
bro.
that.
What about the two series prior? Like he did not play necessarily good in them.
I would
Um,
agree.
and my biggest concern with him is he a five? Is he a four? If he's a five, he's
It doesn't
incredibly
matter.
undersized. Yeah, you could probably get away with playing him at the four, but um,
During.
I don't know. I don't know. You guys ask Ron
I
Holland if
know
he
why
would
Yeah,
like
you don't
Nas Reed
want
on
him.
this
It's
team.
because you don't like him because of that one altercation he had with Ron Holland, which
Yeah, I don't,
which
but I also just don't
fair,
think
but
that
like
he has a skill set that that we necessarily need. Like he
What
doesn't
do you
feel the
mean?
need
He
of
is
us
an elite
getting a big
shooter.
body. He's not big. He's not a center. And he's not like I wouldn't call him an elite shooter by any means.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
he
I don't
shot
I just don't think
40%
he
in the playoffs. He shot 40% from three,
I don't know.
66% from two. He was 10, 5, and 2 in these playoffs. Like off the 25 minutes a game. This is a guy that could absolutely provide the Pistons with something. He is also
I
one of the
agree with
guys
Oh
that
yeah,
my
it's
how many
like
attempts did he shoot?
my big thing with
How
Stu
many
was like
attempts did he shoot from three?
he isn't he shot 6 a game this season. Um my thing with Stu was like he can hit threes, but he hits open threes. Naz Reid can hit tough threes. He can hit self-created threes. He is like a spacer in the center position. Uh Behind Cat might be one of the best shooting bigs in the league right now.
I would like Nas Reed. My only reservation is he doesn't provide that like size that we were mentioning at the beginning of the pod. That's the only reservation I have against it.
Yeah,
Understandable.
I agree. I think I think I would like to have him on the team, but I don't think we're gonna financially, like we were talking about, if he does get like a Michael Porter Jr. offer, I don't want that contract
Oh,
on the
no,
team.
no,
I
no,
need
no, no.
like,
Absolutely not.
No, 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 no.
yeah. But I agree. If he does, because he did kind of underperform against OKC, but that's again because I think OKC is just gonna destroy the Pacers next. That's just what they do. It's also he played next to Anthony Edwards. How do you think he'd play next to Cade? Right? We always
Yeah.
compare them that Anthony probably score better, and he gets his numbers up, and he's a fantastic player. But
Look what
Cade
happened
just
to
involves his
Malik.
a little bit better. Exactly. So to have, like you said, kind of, he is an elite shooter. His like energy transfer from footwork to release is beautiful. It's really compact. It's really fast off either foot. So I would call him elite as well. And then, put him next to Malik, next to Cade, next to Fred Vinson. I think that would be a great guy to have on the roster. And I think that would be kind of like the Pascal Siakam move. He's not quite at that level. What it does, propel you up that little level up the Eastern Conference.
We're running short on time here. We will for sure continue this conversation when we get back on the pod this weekend. But anything else you guys want to touch on before we get out of here?
One more name to throw you guys. I found for the duration of this podcast. Bogoljub Markovic
All right, pal, let's hang it up.
at 37.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited for the off season. It's once again players getting better, coming with hope for the next season.
Yeah, let us know. We're thinking about doing a breakdown of the Pistons offseason, what the bird rights mean, what the mid-level exception means, and what these contracts could look like going into the offseason with potential additions, the cap space, all of it. Let us know if you guys would be interested in a video like that. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Buffs On Podcast. We really appreciate it. Let us know what you think of the pod because we are here for you guys. But until next time, throw the Buffs on, Detroit, because the future is bright.